What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sports Talk with Brodes podcast, and what we have today is some basketball news. We're going with some basketball, the NBA Finals. With me today, once again, is my cousin Taylor Brody, and we are going to talk about the Raptors and the Warriors. And to be honest with you, even though the Sixers fell to the Raptors in a heartbreaking fashion, I still find this very entertaining, and I think this is going to be an interesting NBA Finals. How do you think this is all going to play out? Do you think that there's a chance the Raptors can make this competitive?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Raptors story, Kawhi Leonard having actually succeeded in the NBA Finals, him having won a Finals MVP, that says something in terms of finally having a team that really stands a chance against this juggernaut that is the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I agree. And the Raptors are no joke. They have great defense. They showed me a lot. That defense really is something special when they need it to be. And Kawhi Leonard is a legitimate beast. He is a stud. And one thing, I did make a 10-minute video on my YouTube channel, and I know I didn't want to have the same conversations with the podcast and things that I break down on the channel itself, but I think this is a conversation that can go a little bit deeper than 10 minutes, especially with having somebody else to have conversation with. So in regards to Kawhi Leonard and what he's done, he's great. But
he's so good.
Yeah, he really is. He's great. But he's going to need help big time. And, you know, it can't just be the Kawhi Leonard show against the Golden State Warriors. It definitely worked against the 76ers for the most part. It worked against the Milwaukee Bucks. But with this Golden State squad, they're going to need a lot of people to step up, especially those bench players, and specifically Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam. It can't be a one-man show this series.
How many times did LeBron try to do that?
Yeah.
How many times did LeBron try to make it the one-man show? It worked once.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, though. See, this is one thing that I have written down in my notes here. Now that Kawhi's doing this thing right now, and Kawhi is on this stretch, which I respect the hell out of, they want to say Kawhi's the best player in the game. And I'm sorry, but what LeBron James did and made 8 straight finals, do you realize that we're making it such a huge deal that the Golden State Warriors have made it 5 times in a row, which it is a huge deal. LeBron has made it 8, and I respect Kawhi Leonard to such an elite degree, but he's not the best in the game. He doesn't touch what LeBron did or what Kobe did or what Michael Jordan did. He's not to that level. He's awesome and a superstar in this league, but I don't think he deserves LeBron James credit yet, even though we stopped LeBron in San Antonio for one playoff run.
I think you can make the argument that he's the best player right now as it stands today, not from a legacy standpoint, no.
Do you think Kawhi Leonard's better than Kevin Durant all-around game?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But I think if people are going to make an argument that he's the best player, you could try to make the argument that he's the best player right now. If you try to make the argument that legacy-wise he's the best player, you're beside yourself.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And realistically, now that I mention this, Kevin Durant's offensive game is 5,000 times better than Kawhi Leonard, but Kawhi Leonard's defensive game is superior to Kevin Durant's. Those hands are something else. He is a defensive specialist, and coming from a guy who takes charges at LA Fitness and people look around like, what the hell are you doing? I respect the hell out of some great defense. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I'm intrigued. Let's not go with I love, but I am very intrigued with Kawhi Leonard's personality. I don't think in any sport, has there been something so odd, if you will, when it comes to such an elite player. It's like he's a robot who has no personality. I don't understand.
He's awkward.
That laugh is hilarious.
And coming from the two of us who are Philadelphia fans, we're used to having players with vibrant personalities, whether it's Iverson, whether it's Joel Embiid. We have players with very colorful personalities, and this guy is just the antithesis of it.
Like, I was thinking to the point of the boys hanging out. The guys are out to eat after a game, whatever. Can this guy be just relaxing and having a good time, being funny, or is he just monotoned and just the same physical, I don't know, look when he's just on the court and when he's getting interviewed, that physical look that he has, that he's just this robot? Does he have a personality outside of that?
Could you imagine him on that 2001 76ers team with Mutombo and Iverson, and then you have Kawhi sitting here with that goofy smile, that goofy little grin that everyone posts gifs of?
Well, that laugh that's so iconic.
Yeah.
The whole thing is so awkward. I went back and listened to it, and the storyline behind it was Kawhi Leonard was supposed to be telling the city of Toronto what his personality is. And he's sitting there so awkwardly, and he hits us with that laugh. It all ties around together and makes sense, I guess, if you really think about it, on how it was all displayed there when he's supposed to be telling the city what he's all about.
But you know what? If I'm a Toronto fan, I don't give a damn.
Oh, yeah, I don't give a damn either.
On the court, it doesn't matter what his personality is. Clearly, it works.
Yes. Now, speaking of Toronto and not giving a damn, what they did this offseason and in the regular season to make trades, spectacular. You got to give them credit. They give up on, I don't know if give up on is the word I'm looking for, but to ship DeMar DeRozan out, who was an iconic player for that franchise, literally an iconic player, and everyone was so disappointed, and DeMar DeRozan's crying, like it's that bad that he leaves, to bring in Kawhi Leonard on a deal that he's a free agent when it's over, and then picks up Marcus Gasol halfway through the season. They have done A-plus job. Marc Gasol, the addition of Marc Gasol, I firmly believe, changed the entire playoff run, because I think the Sixers would have had a better chance, and it came down to a 4-jumper off the rim there, but I think we would have had an even easier chance, if you will, if that makes sense, on beating the Raptors if they did not have Marc Gasol.
He's the anti-big man. I mean, the way he manhandled Joel Embiid.
Absolutely.
He didn't just dominate him. He manhandled him. Joel Embiid did not know what to do. He hasn't known what to do with Marc Gasol all season long. Anytime they faced each other.
Yeah, Joel Embiid struggled against him insanely. It's the physicality that he brings in the post, and that's a difference maker. It's not just Kawhi. And obviously Kawhi is why they are where they are, but it's so underrated what the Raptors actually did with Marc Gasol, because it changed their run without a doubt. So let's tie this back into somewhat Sixers related and with the NBA Finals. Do you think personally the fact that the Raptors are now in the finals, is it easier to kind of sit on what happened, how the Sixers lost, because you say, okay, well, we lost to a team that made the finals, or do you look at it as, damn, the Sixers probably could have beaten the Bucks as well. This could have been an NBA Finals run for the Sixers.
I was hoping that the Sixers would make it to the finals. I didn't think going into it that we were going to beat the Raptors. It still stings.
Yeah.
And I know for you it still stings.
Yeah.
And for everyone watching, if you tell me it doesn't sting, you're lying. It just that doesn't make it feel any better that they're getting as far as they are, because I thought we had a chance against the Bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. That is what it comes down to.
Bucks before.
Yeah.
When we're at full strength. And it seemed like if Embiid could, get over whatever sickness he had, it didn't seem like this loss was the kind of loss that you could just tolerate at any point going forward. This is a 1-0 type loss for those of you Philadelphia Phillies fans out there that you never really get over. You'll talk about it when it comes to devastating Philadelphia losses in the history of our city.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. You are right. It is. It's definitely one of the most frustrating Sixers losses. I put it up there with the city, but all around it is definitely one of the most demoralizing Sixers losses that that there has been. But all around, I guess I'm with you where it doesn't make me feel any better because I think we could have had a chance against the Bucks. I don't think the Sixers could have beaten the Warriors. I don't know if the Raptors can beat the Warriors, but we were that close of making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And to be completely honest with you, watching the Milwaukee Bucks early in that Eastern Conference Finals when they were demolishing the Raptors, I said, "Wow, the Raptors, whew, what's going on there?" And I said, the Raptors aren't it. The Bucks are going to demolish them. And just like that, the Raptors flipped the page there and ended up getting a solid series win. And coming into this Warriors series, pretty damn hot. There's no denying that. They're coming in with confidence, with swagger, with defensive intensity, and home court advantage. That is so ridiculous to think about and could change the series. One thing I mentioned is if it was in Golden State and say Golden State wins the first 2 games of the series heading back to Toronto, what's the narrative like for sports fans? The Golden State Warriors are probably going to do it again if they just split in Toronto. Now it's 3-1 heading back to the Warriors. It's just not so entertaining. But the fact that it goes to Toronto first, and if Toronto wins game 1, now the storyline's just, it flips a little bit.
It becomes a series.
Yeah.
No one expected whoever came out of the Eastern Conference to have a chance to get against the Golden State Warriors. Nobody. No one did. Going into the season, halfway through the season, toward the end of the regular season, nobody.
Yeah.
If they can win game 1, if the Raptors can win game 1, you're telling the NBA fans out there, we want to make this a series. If you can make it a series, you have a shot.
Yeah. See, as a Philly sports fan, to be honest with you, was I a little upset watching the Raptors play throughout? Obviously, I think that's human nature. But at this point now, I don't think I have any emotional ties with the Sixers and the Raptors. Like, I'm not going to sit there and just root against the Raptors because they beat the Sixers, or I'm not going to be upset watching the Raptors. I think I'm over it to the point of being able to enjoy the NBA Finals with 2 good storylines without still having that bias towards the Raptors, because I love greatness, and what Kawhi Leonard has been doing is so appreciative just as a fan of basketball, and I love how he brings the energy on both sides of the floor, and I really do appreciate the hell out of him. So as a sports fan, just enjoying this for entertainment purposes, I'm excited for it. I think that the Raptors can hang around when it comes to keeping games close. I don't know where it really is going to go. If you ask me, Brodes, where are you going to put your money? I'm obviously going to put it on the Golden State Warriors, because my big thing is, until I see them fall, I'm not going to say they are going to fall. So I lean towards the Golden State Warriors, but I think the Raptors can make it somewhat competitive in games situation, whether that plays out in the game number of series or just specifically as the games are closer towards the end. I don't know what that really means, but they're going to keep it interesting throughout the series close.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I don't view the Raptors as any kind of rivalry for Philadelphia at all. It's not like the Celtics where when they beat us and we had the confetti game and all of that, and people talk trash on both sides. No one's talking trash on Toronto's side. Not serious trash.
Right.
You know, when it comes to the Celtics, we have a hatred toward the Celtics because we talk trash toward them and vice versa, and they've had our number over and over again, and we can't stand it. Kawhi Leonard hasn't said anything rude about the Philadelphia 76ers. We lost the series. They won the series. We shook hands with them.
Yes, I agree completely. Let's kind of look at it for a little bit in the eyes of the Golden State Warriors. They don't have Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is having an injury. It's a calf injury, and realistically, they're trying to downplay it, in my opinion. I think it's something dead serious, because you would hear something that he's ready to get going, and I haven't heard any positive news out of Kevin Durant. I think it's something way more serious than they're trying to imply. But as a Golden State Warrior team, what they've shown so far without KD, they can play. I mean, they lose Kevin Durant, which we talked about. It could potentially right now be the best player in the game as of this season right now. and they're still firing in all cylinders, and Steph Curry has picked it up to an elite pace, and Klay Thompson has been big. Draymond Green, someone who I specifically hate because he's so annoying, but respect because of the type of style he plays with, he's been recording triple-doubles and being a pest and being annoying, and that's what his job is. This team hasn't really lost a step with losing Kevin Durant, and I think, just like I talked about the confidence of the Raptors, what Steph Curry and Klay Thompson has right now is an extreme level of confidence, and they're not afraid to shoot it, and their experience. That's one thing that if I lean towards Golden State more, this is their 5th straight time on being here, and with the Raptors, they have Kawhi Leonard, who's been a Finals MVP, but let's not act like Pascal Siakam has been tremendous because he struggled at times. Let's not act like Fred VanVleet is this playoff miracle guy, and same with Kyle Lowry, a knock on his career throughout. Now, he's had a better playoff than he's ever had, but one of his big knocks is the dude just doesn't come to show and doesn't come to play in the playoffs, so the experience of being there 5 straight times for the Warriors is going to be a big piece on if this team is able to win again.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, when it comes to that Kevin Durant injury, I was shocked it wasn't an Achilles.
Yeah, same. When I saw it happen,
the only thing that gave me hope that it wasn't a ruptured Achilles is that he kept standing.
Right.
Because if you rupture your Achilles, you're down to the ground.
Well, the way he kept hopping on it, as he landed, he kept hopping and hopping and hopping, and he looked down. And to be honest with you, do you think it's possible that it's an Achilles? But what would the positive be out of saying it's a calf and not throwing him out for the rest of the playoffs? Is it a mind game with the opposing team? Are they allowed to lie and say it's a calf strain when they know it's an Achilles?
If it was an Achilles, he would have had surgery by now.
That's what I'm thinking.
And we would know about it, 100%. I know I spoke with my best friend who's a doctor of physical therapy. He's told me multiple times that when it comes to an Achilles injury, you can't hide it. One, he wouldn't have gone off the way he did. It would have been much more serious. At the same time, he would have gotten surgery almost immediately for the sake of his career. Achilles injuries, as we very well know in Philadelphia, can ruin a career.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not the same as tearing an ACL. It's not the same as, I hate going back to that bloody nil game.
Well, it was a devastating loss here. That's why.
Yeah. And it single-handedly ruined Ryan Howard's career. And in basketball, when you're constantly moving on your feet, it would have been devastating. But I don't think it's an Achilles. Could it be a worse calf strain than they're leading on? Sure. But calf strains in general are really not that serious.
Yeah, but think about it. It's not that serious, yet we're here ready to start the NBA Finals, and Kevin Durant is still not going to be playing. So it has to be some level of seriousness, unless they're saying, let's just sit him out until we lose, because they weren't losing, so they figured, all right, well, we'll keep rocking our guys until we desperately need Kevin Durant to give him more time. But I don't know if that's the way they're approaching it, then it is. But something tells me it is a little bit more than just the normal calf strain, because it's
possible. It's possible, but I don't think it's an Achilles for the exact reason I mentioned before, that if he would have had surgery immediately, and we would have heard about it immediately, it could be something more than just your typical calf strain. Very possible. But time will tell. We'll see if they play him. It may very well be what you're saying, that he may not play a majority of the finals because they don't feel like they need him there, which is crazy to think that you don't need Kevin Durant, because any other team would be told they're absolutely out of their minds.
I know, right? Imagine no Embiid or no Ben Simmons for playoff games in the finals. For us, we're sitting there saying, are you kidding me, freaking out?
That sounds like the Sixers medical staff to me, though.
Well, I want to bring up one point here that I did mention before, but I'm curious to hear your take on this, because I feel like my take makes a lot of sense logically, but according to a lot of Raptors fans, I'm ridiculous.
Okay.
The Raptors fans, Toronto, right? It's all of Canada. Guys from Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, all over Canada, Vancouver. They love the Toronto Raptors because it's their team. Imagine being, this is how I put it. We're Philadelphia sports fan. Say we have the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies, no Eagles, right? We hate the Penguins. Like, Pittsburgh Steelers are the only team in Pennsylvania. I would never in a million years root for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I'm rooting for the same fan base that I despise in every other sport
Yep.
Why would I want them to win a Super Bowl? So all these fans that despise the Toronto Maple Leafs are now rooting for the same fan base to win a championship. And they're saying, well, it's like the Olympics because it's Canada. We're rooting for Canada. In a sport like basketball, you're rooting for the whole country. And I get where they're coming from, but the same Toronto Maple Leafs fans that you hate every single day, you're rooting for them to win. And at the end of the day, no one says when the Toronto Raptors win a championship that the Vancouver gets any say, or Edmonton. They don't get to brag and say, well, look what we won. No, it's just Toronto, the fan base that you hate. So why would you root for the Raptors?
And I am extremely outspoken. I believe I wrote a little article in a Facebook note when I was in high school.
Oh, I love it.
About what defines the proper reasoning for being a fan of any given team, right?
Yes.
There's lots of reasons why people follow teams. It could be your typical, you grew up somewhere, and that's a region covered by X amount of sports teams. It could be you were raised to be fans of a certain combination of teams, which you can't help. Or it could be places that you've actually lived in general. In my opinion, if you don't fall into any of these categories as reasoning why you root for a team, you're a fraud. You're a fraud. If you root for the Dallas Cowboys because you like the star or it was the first team you ever watched growing up, you're a fraud. I say the same thing if you're an Eagles fan for the same exact reason. You're a fraud.
That's fair. That's fair. Keep it both on the same side. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's
I don't discriminate. I don't discriminate. Root for the teams you are either raised to root for or the teams that play for you. The teams that play for where you live.
Well, they factor in the Canadians, which it's easier to say looking out from an outsider's perspective, but because Toronto's the only team in Canada, same with the Blue Jays, that they feel connected to that team, which makes sense. I get their side of it. But my side is you hate their fan base with a burning passion for the Maple Leafs. So
why would you support that? Why would you support that fan base?
I agree with you. See, that's how I see it.
I have multiple friends who are Philadelphia Flyers and Philadelphia 76ers fans, but then they root for the Mets and the Giants. I have multiple friends like that. How does that work?
I know, dude. I'm with you. I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I know a bunch of people, man. They're Yankees and Lakers fans, or they're something ridiculous like that, where they love the Knicks, but they love the Dodgers. It's I don't know. I don't know how they do it.
And quite frankly, most of them, they root for these teams. They'll never say it, and they may not even know it when you talk to them about it. They root for teams like those, the Yankees, the Dodgers, because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to be like, I root for the team that has 27 rings. I root for the Dodgers who are in the World Series every year, even though they lose. It's easy.
No, I agree. I am on the same exact page as you. I don't understand. Now, it's always interesting to me because I always think of it in this regards. There's going to be one day where, I'm just saying, for example, and I don't think my passion will ever change, but say I moved to Tampa Bay and my job is Tampa Bay sports radio for 25 years, but I just bring the passion of Philadelphia to Tampa Bay. I just cover them, but I don't find the same level of passion. Do you think, say, 10 years, 12 years in, I feel a different change in my love for sports due to that nature? At one point, are you allowed to change your diehard love for squads in life after, say, you move somewhere for so many years? Is that allowed ever?
Well, yeah, because you live there.
Right.
So they play for you.
Right.
They play for where you live. At the same time, if you decided to stay as an Eagles fan, same thing applies. You lived in the Philadelphia area for years. You were born there. You were raised to be a diehard Philadelphia fan.
Yeah, no, that's
So
how I see it. I'm just saying,
yeah,
I feel like if there was ever a point where I had to move or my sports radio dream takes me somewhere and I need to cover a different city, is there going to be a point in my career where, say I'm in one spot for 30 years and it's a small market team, does my love, does it change somehow? Do I stop
who
loving? I
knows?
know, I don't know how I would feel. I'm just spitballing off the top of my head here as we ramble about, how people root for their respective squads, but I don't know. It's just interesting.
My favorite are the people who root for teams that play in cities they've never been to.
Yeah, that is odd.
How could you root? I hate to go back to actually. I love to go back to the Dallas Cowboys. How do you root for the Dallas Cowboys when you've never been to Dallas?
I know it's the same. It's the same thing as before, or it's the same story pretty much throughout it. There's a couple options. It's my dad was a Dallas Cowboys fan, or when I was younger, it was the only team on TV, and it was America's team, and they were winning.
I love the star.
Yeah. It's
my uncle's brothers, cousins, sisters, best friends' uncle was a trainer for them back in.
Or you get my whole family's an Eagles fan, so I wanted to like the Cowboys. Then you have that. You have that side.
Oh, I hate my whole family's Eagles fans, and I can't stand the Eagles fans.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm still a Phillies fan, and I'm still a Sixers fan. I'm still a Flyers fan.
I hate that. I really do. By the way, my dog has not stopped barking for like 4 minutes. So
I haven't heard him.
Okay, well I'm glad, because who knows if my mic's picking up, but it has been ruthless, and I'm ready to scream my face off at my dog through the vent. So let's kind of move back on track here with the NBA Finals. And one big thing this offseason was we were trying to go star hunting, if you remember Brett Brown with that X.
Pronounce it right.
Yeah, star hunting. And we came up empty essentially throughout the offseason, and Kawhi was someone who was on our list to get, but at the time we didn't want to give up someone like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, which I definitely am okay with, at the time, and still now. I get it. I totally understand not giving up on someone like Ben Simmons, but if I just remember correctly, there were some packages like Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, Robert Covington, Dario Saric for Kawhi Leonard, and things of that nature. And this fan base, no, we can't be doing it. Not for Kawhi, not for 1 year. And you see Kawhi Leonard do what he did this season and bring the Raptors to a championship round. I'm here to ask you, would you have done it knowing that you could make the NBA Finals like this? Would you trade Ben Simmons at the time and some other pieces for Kawhi Leonard on a 1-year deal, pretty much, if it promised you an NBA championship, now that we know the hindsight?
No.
Okay. No, I'm with you.
It was no then. It's no now.
Okay. I'm with you. I mean, I get it.
Despite TJ McConnell writing that article talking about how the process is over, the process is not over. The process does not end until we have a trophy in this city. In my opinion, if you made that trade, a trade like that for Kawhi Leonard, you risk the process ending early. God forbid we didn't make it to the finals. God forbid we don't win a ring and Kawhi leaves.
Right.
You're done.
Yeah.
The process is over, kaput. You're back in that mediocrity that was the Sixers of the late 2000s, where it was get to the playoffs as like the 6th to 8th seed.
Yeah, it was Andre Iguodala. And we actually made a run because Chicago was there and Derrick Rose got hurt. So we were actually able to make it to Game 7 against Boston, who had a way better squad than us. And we weren't able to get the job done, of course. But yeah, Iguodala, that was when we were stuck in the 8th seed every single year, and we decided to start the process from there. But you're right, because the big part of the process was to have 2 cornerstone pieces to build around. Not just 2. I mean, we probably could have had more, and it sucks to even think about Markelle Fultz and where we would have been since then, and if we would have had to have made a Jimmy Butler trade or a Tobias Harris trade if we had Markelle Fultz, but there's no one to blame there. That is literally an unstoppable thing to happen. No one could have ever processed Markelle Fultz to happen, and I stand by that firmly. You take a look at his career stats at Washington, there is nothing to tell you he was going to be a bum. So, I agree. I don't think I would have made the trade for Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi's only, 27, 28 years old, and Ben Simmons is 22, but I still don't think I would do it knowing that Kawhi Leonard could walk at the end of the year. And realistically, for Kawhi Leonard as a whole, for a basketball fan, I want him out of the East because he's so good, but I think it would be good for the sport for him to stay with Toronto after everything that happened with San Antonio and him sitting out, and he wants to go to LA, and they said, yeah, okay, I'll send you out of the country, and then he goes to the NBA Finals and stays there, and I think that would be kind of cool, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and people often don't realize, even though it's talked about on sports radio all the time. I know Mike Missinelli on 97.5 talks about it all the time. How long does it take most players to get to the NBA Finals?
Long time.
A long time. Jordan didn't get there till he was what?
28?
26, 27, 28?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ben Simmons is 22. Embiid's what, 25?
Yeah, 25.
26?
Yep.
So think about it. We have guys making playoff runs this early in their careers. They will get there. I truly believe they will get there.
I do too. It's we think it's all over because we're starting to move in a very positive manner. And I really do think that maybe our first season with the 50 wins, maybe that wasn't good for our fan base because we overachieved by 3,000 miles. We expected to maybe be an 8th seed and we win 50-plus games and we go on this big run and people get all excited and then they demand way more. And listen, I know the roster changed and we had talent to do it and all, but it takes time. It doesn't just show me a team that doesn't make the playoffs for 8 years in a row or whatever the case may be, 6 years in a row, and then the next year, the first year they make the playoffs, they're making the NBA Finals. There's such a growth process involved. But I don't want to dive too heavy into the Sixers and where they are right now. I know we get sidetracked a lot, and that makes sense because we can ramble about sports forever.
Yeah.
I have a question with Drake and this whole Drake thing, and I personally love it. I'm a huge fan of it. I think that's part of how cool the NBA is. Why can't you have your superstar biggest fan get all hype? Does touching the coach and giving him a little back massage, is that crossing the line a little bit? Yeah, maybe that's a little too much, but that's nothing extreme. If he was touching the other coach, I'd say that's more of a problem. But overall, that's what makes this game so awesome, how close the fans can be, and him chirping on the sidelines and screaming. That's part of it. And one thing I mentioned is people loved it when Reggie Miller choked to Spike Lee. People loved it then because the player won the battle. But now that it was the person on the sidelines who won the battle in this case against the Bucks, now it's a problem? See, I don't like that. And I think this is cool, and it's part of having to play in a tough environment.
It's definitely cool. That being said, Drake's a fraud. As a musician, see, I appreciate him.
Okay, I was going to say, Drake is number one on my list in today's music.
But we were just going on about reasons to root for sports teams and all that. Drake is exactly what we're talking about. He is.
Yeah, no, you're right.
How many teams has he rooted for?
Well,
quote unquote cursed.
Well, yeah. Listen, I know he's the Kentucky fan and all that stuff, but the dude's from Toronto. It's not like this guy doesn't have ties to Toronto and the Six. I mean, that's everything this guy ever talks about. So he's just extremely passionate. If I was in Drake's position and I had season tickets to the Sixers right there, and I'm this big name rapper, Brodes the rapper, you're telling me I'm not getting hype on those sidelines, freaking out, getting crazy? Hell yeah, I would. So why would I get mad at Drake for doing the same thing?
If Meek Mill jumped up and started going to Brett Brown, Joel Embiid, and rubbing their shoulders, do you think we would appreciate that as fans? Of course we would.
Yes,
100%. It's great for the game to have, because every city has their own personalities, and to have those personalities out. We have that sign guy.
Yeah, exactly. What's the difference of the sign guy, or the Raptors even have a guy that's just like the sign guy for or the guy's name's Allen, I think, the Sixers guy. Is that who you're talking about? Or are you talking about the sign guy for the Flyers?
That guy too.
Yeah.
He's been there for years.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. Yeah. So I don't see there being a problem with it as long as the line isn't legitimately insanely crossed. I know it's getting close, but I don't think anything he's done so far has been to the point where it bothers me as interrupting the game or whatnot. Is he saying some chirps and some ruthless things? Sure, but hasn't that always been done? I literally just gave you an example, an iconic moment where Reggie Miller gave the choke sign to Spike Lee. It's happened forever, always in basketball. So why is it such a big deal now? It shouldn't be, honestly. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
So here's a question to you. When you take a look at the 7-game series as a whole, keep in mind the Raptors have home court advantage. Keep in mind that guys have stepped up like Fred VanVleet over the last couple games, and Siakam has been better, and Kyle Lowry has been good. Do you think the Raptors can actually win the series? Do you think they can actually win it?
I think they could force it to a game 7.
Wow. And which would be at home? Which would be at home?
If they can force it to a game 7, I think they can win. I don't think they'll win. They're not going to come out and sweep them, obviously. They're not going to win it in between. I think if they can keep this series close, if they can make it competitive, and if they can force it to a game 7 in Toronto, Golden State's going to have a rough go at it.
Here's the thing that I try and break down. It's, okay, who's going to guard Kawhi? I mean, in my opinion, and Kevin Durant's out and all that, you're going to have to put Draymond Green on him just because he's annoying. He's just an annoying guy to play against. He might frustrate Kawhi, even though you don't see that very often. He plays with that swagger, the screaming, the bang in the chest. He's just, let's be real, he's an asshole to play against, and I think I would put that matchup on him to just kind of irritate him, whether he's making shots or not, just being annoying and being a pest. But as for the Raptors defensively, and when you take a look at, okay, who's Kawhi going to defend, and say, you try and put him on someone like Klay Thompson or whatever the case may be, who are you going to stop? There's so much in
you can't.
Right, in the game plan of the Warriors, it's stop Kawhi to an extent, and you got to rely on Gasol, Lowry, Siakam, VanVleet, Danny Green, which I think you'll live and die by. If you're the Raptors and you got to take away Steph Curry, that's fine, but Klay can do just as much damage from deep. Or, I mean, Draymond Green has been producing triple-doubles. I know he's not a huge scorer, but what he does, grabbing rebounds and defensively and assists, he's been on an elite tear lately. So that has been something to look out for. And Klay Thompson's been amazing. Their whole role players have been stepping up. I just think as a game plan defensively for the Raptors, when they take a look at what they need to do defensively, they have such a tougher matchup than what the Warriors are going to do. And that's not knocking what the Raptors have done with their hard defensive play, because there's no denying they've been giving 7,000% effort. But it's just the game plan, and how are you going to stop these two guards that literally can score from all over the place and create so much space for their team. I just don't know how they're going to be able to stop this juggernaut. Like I said all the way in the beginning, until I see it happen, I can't say it will happen.
Neither can I, and that's why my prediction from the very beginning has been Warriors in 6.
Warriors in 6 makes sense because they're on their home floor, and I'm not saying it's impossible for Golden State to lose at home, but I think the Raptors are going to have a tough time going into the Oracle Arena and trying to close out basketball games. It's just a different place out there, and I can see the Warriors winning in Jurassic Park. They've been here so many times now. I can't even imagine the difference in butterflies in these two teams. I mean, to be there 5 times in a row, it just seems natural. It just seems like another series. It just seems like another playoff run. But when you have guys on the other side that have never been there, and once again, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is a monstrous difference when it comes to just having that many games in final situations compared to not. And Kawhi has, and he's been a defensive weapon in the finals, but not so much the other guys.
Imagine how Brady and Belichick feel.
It's the same thing. It's the
same thing. Do you think Tom Brady feels like even a hint of nervousness when he steps onto that Super Bowl field? Absolutely
not. 1 second. Not for 1 second does that man get butterflies.
No.
Not one.
And it's the same for this team. These guys have been there. They've done that. And besides Kawhi, the rest of these guys in this Raptors team are going to have to straighten themselves out quickly. Because I'd be very shocked if the Raptors come out and they're performing at 100%.
Well, they always say this when it comes to role players. when you're on the road, you don't play as well at home. Well, that's huge to start the series out at home because you can get that flow and get that rhythm from the crowd and the energy, and that can help you spark it. And realistically, the Raptors, when you take a look at it, here's a question for you. If they were to split 1-1 at the first 2 games at home, how comfortable are you feeling going back to Oracle? Like, I'm at the point where if I'm the Raptors, I don't even know if I can let them get 1 win at home in the first 2 games here, because then it would be 3-1. I mean, it's not necessarily that way. It's not impossible for the Raptors to win one, but theoretically, if they split in Toronto, which is what any team would be happy with doing, going back home, you can maybe be down 3-1 in going back to Game 5, and that's deadly. I mean, I know the Warriors have blown a 3-1 lead before, and I think everybody remembers that, and no one's ever going to stop talking about it. But it's deadly. It's deadly.
Yeah, if you're the Raptors, you have to think of this 2-game series as if it's an opportunity to really put some pressure on this Golden State team, whatever pressure is even there.
I agree completely.
For a team that's been there 5 times.
Completely, because now that I'm thinking about that, when you say that, if they were to split 1 game in Oracle at that point,
well, then you just lost home field. You've lost home court.
It could be 3-1 going back to Toronto for a chance to win it. So it really is big. I think Toronto, the first 2 games of this series, is going to be monstrous and can completely change everything. It can change how the whole entire series plays out. And I truly am super excited for it. I think there will be battles involved. I think there will be moments of just awesomeness. We didn't get that last year, and I'm such a diehard LeBron fan, but that Cavs team was so abysmal. It was so brutal to watch. And then you had the J.R. Smith moment in Game 1 and all that nonsense. I'm such a diehard LeBron fan, and that just speaks value on how talented he really was to bring that bum squad to the finals, but it made it not entertaining. I think this has a better 2 teams together than we have seen in a while. So, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's fresh because it's the Warriors in there again, but it is fresh because it's not LeBron. It's this Kawhi Leonard character who is a superstar, and what is he really? And he sat the year out. I just love everything behind it going into it more than it has been over the last few years of Warriors Cavs, Warriors Cavs, Warriors Cavs.
We mentioned the J.R. Smith game. Isn't it crazy to that there's players that we blame losses like this on, and it becomes the so-and-so game?
Yeah, no doubt.
Like Bill Buckner, who just passed away today.
I heard that.
We have the Bill Buckner game in baseball. So with J.R. Smith, we think of him, and that's what the minute you hear J.R. Smith's name, what's the first thing that's going to pop in your head?
The dude didn't know the score, and he ran the ball out, and he could have won the damn game, man.
Single-handedly lost the game.
That meme of LeBron with that disgust on his face. Yeah, what are you doing? I can't believe it. But let's talk about how impressive this Warriors team is, and not just how impressive it is, because I think we all know, but I want to hear your opinion on it. Without Kevin Durant, without Boogie Cousins, I remember making a video when Boogie Cousins signed with the Warriors. I was so pissed off and said, this is such a joke. The NBA is such a joke. How are you supposed to know who wins the league before the season starts? And I still think that there's truth in that, but I have become more pro NBA than I ever have been, and I still love it to death. And without Kevin Durant there, and without Boogie Cousins there, when I sit back and watch this Warriors team, it's like I fell back in love with how much they play the game just beautifully. They play the game. It's poetry the way they play the game. Passing the ball, the way they shoot it, the way they stroke it. We're watching Steph Curry, who is changing the game. Allen Iverson changed the game.
Point shooters
ever. Allen Iverson, we got to witness him in a Sixers uniform change everything in basketball, whether it was what you wore, the dreadlocks, the tattoos, the shooting sleeves, what you wore pre-game, post-game, the chains. Steph Curry is changing the game, and I don't know why Kevin Durant and Boogie Cousins not being involved is making me realize this, and I never wish injury upon anyone. I'm not going to that level. But watching this team play with these role players of Kevin Looney and Bell and then you have Draymond.
It's an art form.
Yeah, it really is. It's art. It's poetry. It's beautiful basketball.
And what is the key? It's not really hateable anymore.
I agree.
Not. When you look at dynasties in sports, great teams that are great for years. Most recently, you look at the New England Patriots, and it's really easy to hate the New England Patriots, whether it's the Spygate, the Deflategate, the Robert Kraft stuff now, Tom Brady, and everything surrounding him. It's very easy to hate them. With this team, yeah, Kevin Durant's a personality, but can you really hate them?
See, it's funny you say that because in basketball, it's like yearly for me. For example, when I first came into basketball, it was LeBron in Miami. Year one, I despised LeBron. And now it's funny because I'm a lover. I got posters on the wall of him. I got a hat with his face on it. I should have wore it today.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I am a diehard LeBron guy. But going back to year one, I hated him in Miami, and I was rooting for the Spurs. And then the next year, I was so bothered by the Spurs, I'm rooting for Miami. And then the next year, I'm rooting for Miami again. And then in the beginning of Golden State, I loved Golden State. And then the next year, I despise Golden State. And it's like year by year, I love different teams, and I hate teams in the finals, but they're the same team. It's just the narrative behind it. And now I'm back after hating the Warriors. It's, damn, I love the damn Warriors again.
But you look at a lot of these dynasty teams, and there's ones that you look back and you hate them still. But then you look back at the types of dynasties all throughout sports that previously we might have hated. If we were watching sports the way we are now, back when the Yankees were going on their run, we would have hated it.
Right.
But do we look back on the Yankees of the late 1990s, early 2000s with hatred? No. We look back at it, we see Jeter and Rivera at their best.
Yeah, I agree completely. That's something with... Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, and you look back at the Big Red Machine and how great they were. You don't get teams like that very often in any sport. Look at this Golden State Warriors team, watch them play, and appreciate it, because you won't get that for a long time.
Well, in basketball, you get it more than others just because teams are doing this thing where stars come together. But to this level, you're right. And realistically, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they're not 35. They can be doing this for way longer if they stay together. They've proven that without Kevin Durant and without Boogie Cousins, they can still do this. And with a lot of money, I'm just spitballing here. If they leave at the end of the year, who says they can't offer Tobias Harris a max contract and he can't fit into that scheme and be a perfect fit? They have a window here to continue to do this for quite some time. So they really can, at the end of the day, maybe outlast the Bulls team of Chicago and the Shaq and Kobe squad in LA and those type of teams. They have the potential to be an all-time basketball high at the end of the day.
Imagine a team winning more than 6 rings in a short period of time.
Yeah.
That's what we're on the verge of. That's what could happen.
Imagine having that with the Sixers.
Like, I always having that with a Philadelphia team.
I always thought this. In basketball, and I'll date it back to just say the Dallas Mavericks, right? You win one championship. So say the Sixers win one championship. In basketball terms, that kind of sucks. Like, you don't get the same vibe of one NBA championship as you do with one Super Bowl or one Stanley Cup. One NBA title in a 5-year window. It's kind of depressing, and it shouldn't be. I'm not saying it should be, but isn't that weird how it plays out that way?
Yeah, and because with Super Bowls, you have teams winning...
That's fine.
I apologize. Yeah. My dog's barking.
Hey, my dog was barking for quite some time. 48 minutes in, we get a real dog bark. We'll be okay, I promise.
It's a guest star.
Yeah, listen, it's okay. It's all right. I ain't worried about it.
But Super Bowls, there are so many teams with only one Super Bowl. Many teams with no Super Bowls.
Yeah.
With NBA basketball teams, you tend to win them in bunches. in a sense.
Yeah, you do. But that's
You
what I'm
do.
saying. It's weird, for
Yeah.
example, the Dallas Mavericks, that one title they got. It's awesome, and I would never not want one title. But it sounds funny that it's not, well, they didn't win 3 in 5 years, or they didn't win 2 in 3 years. It's, well,
Yeah.
you won once. You won one time. It's the trophy doesn't mean as much, I feel. Then no one walks out like, yeah, I'm a one-time NBA champion. You don't get
Yeah,
that.
and
I'm a
there's
one-time NBA champion. It's cool after your career, but realistically, it's, I'm a 6-time champion. I'm a 5-time All-Star. That has more value, obviously.
yeah, and how rare is it to repeat in the other major sports?
Big time. Unless you're the
It's
Patriots.
so rare, unless you're the Patriots and you're, filming signals.
Is that where we're going with here?
Always.
I actually, even though we're getting a little sidetracked, as much as I hate Boston sports, and the reason why I'm disgusted with Tom Brady winning all the time is because of Boston. If this guy played in any other city but Boston or New York or Washington or Dallas,
100%. We wouldn't care.
I mean, realistically, as a sports fan, I love Tom Brady. I actually love Tom Brady because why would I love LeBron James? Why would I love Sidney Crosby? Why would I love Serena Williams? Why would I love all these other great athletes and then just despise Tom Brady because of the team he plays for? No, as an athlete, the dude is unbelievable. So I respect him. It's just the fact that I hate Boston winning so much is what
he's
it comes
playing into his 40s at a championship level.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's the greatest football player ever.
He really is. He is ever. I mean, you won't find a quarterback as accomplished as Tom Brady in
even in today's league with how long quarterbacks can play. He will never ever be topped.
And if he is now, I mean, if he is.
Oh, it takes a Superman.
Yeah. I mean, you would think in 100 years.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah. In 100 years, maybe there's one guy that might come in the league and do it. Who knows?
We hope that Carson Wentz can be the next Ben Roethlisberger in terms of his skill set. There's no talk of anyone in the league coming into the league potentially being similar to Tom Brady.
No, you.
It doesn't exist. No one ever talks about it.
Yeah, you're right, because it's almost impossible to expect someone to reach that type of level of play. So by the way, we have been all over the place, which is great though. I love that. I love how we can keep a simple topic around Raptors, Warriors, but still flow in other conversations involved. And that's one thing I know I mentioned this on the other podcast, but I want to, mention that again and throw it out there again that I like that feel of this podcast. Instead of setting on one particular topic and just drilling it, it's okay if we go from the Warriors dynasty to Tom Brady's dynasty for a couple minutes. I find that, to be entertaining and not so much just drilling one topic. But as we dwindle down here for the last 10 minutes or so of this podcast, to head back to this, I guess let's just kind of wrap our final thoughts for the series and just interesting headlines going in for me when I take a look at the whole thing is how Kawhi is going to step up and be that superstar. One thing I mentioned is, and I fell into my own trap when it came to the Raptors and Bucks, superstars win in this league. Superstars win this league. The Bucks, Giannis, as much as people want to say, oh, he's this young superstar, he's not Kawhi Leonard status yet, where he is actually dominating. I mean, I guess that sounds silly because Giannis does dominate games, but there's just a different tier from Giannis to Kawhi Leonard, in my opinion, and superstars win in this league. And I think Kawhi Leonard, if Kevin Durant is out, is the best player on the floor. I think he's the best talent on the floor, even with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson out there. But it's, the all-around team aspect. How is that going to play a factor? Because even though Klay is better than Steph, the drop-off isn't insane, so it's almost somewhat level, but not. But the Warriors have more talent around them. So my big focus is how is Kawhi Leonard going to attack this series offensively and defensively. We know what he's going to bring to the table defensively, but offensively, is he going to try and take over Michael Jordan's status, be the guy, or is he going to allow the Golden State Warriors game plan to dictate how he's going to play offensively, maybe use his teammates more rather than him taking over, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and going off of that note, I want to see how Kawhi gets his teammates involved in a way that promotes winning.
Yeah.
I want to see how he gets everyone else on his team, and let's be real, the players on his team are not quite as great of a supporting cast as the players the Golden State Warriors have. How can he get his teammates to step up? How can he be that leader who's been there, who's done that, who's won a ring, who's won MVP, and take it to the next level and hand it to the Golden State Warriors the best they can?
Yeah, because you got to remember when Kawhi did his thing in San Antonio, he had Tim Duncan, he had other guys, Ginobili and Tony Parker, and his role was awesome, and he was an unreal talent, but he had Hall of Famers with him. Now, he's at a different point of his career where he is the Tim Duncan, if not obviously playing the 4 position, but he is the guy. And I want to see how he takes that next step in his career, because on a personal level for Kawhi, this is such a monstrous moment. Not that anyone would look down on him if he doesn't beat the Golden State Warriors, because he doesn't deserve that type of criticism unless he's held to 6 points a night somehow by Draymond Green, which I don't expect to happen. So just on a personal level of Kawhi, how does he bring his game to the next level? I wonder what all those times with Greg Popovich and all those years with Tim Duncan, how that's going to help him take that next step and try and win this thing.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a fun series.
I you know what? The more I think about it, at first, not that I was disgusted, like I said, I obviously had some pain to the Raptors continuing to win, but the more I just sit back, relax, and just ponder about the storyline, I think it's way more intriguing than the Bucks being involved, because the Bucks, good team, not the same level as Toronto, now that I've seen Toronto kind of play at their full potential with that bench play and all that. And real quickly, I just to tie this back somehow with the Sixers, do you realize Powell couldn't play in the series with the Sixers? Fred VanVleet couldn't hit one shot against the Sixers. And these role players, and Danny Green going 0 for whatever in the playoffs in that series. Our length was a serious problem to that Raptors team, and even Nick Nurse was talking about it after the series. Those guys couldn't get going. Powell couldn't even play because of the length, and that's something that was so much different in that Sixers series to the Bucks series, and that's why you saw guys like in that Bucks series, or I'm sorry, that's why you saw the Raptors players get better looks and better shots and better points realistically because of the size difference. But I just thought of something while I was rambling, and I talked about Draymond Green D'ing up Kawhi Leonard. Iguodala is going to be a difference maker in this series too. Not that Iggy is what he was, 3-4 years ago. He has age, but he's going to be a different look than just Draymond. I'm sure they're going to put him on Kawhi as well, and he's a veteran defender, annoying pest as well. And I just randomly thought about that as I was ranting, and I can't believe it took us 57 minutes to mention Iguodala as a difference maker in this series, but he is going to be a different look for Kawhi when Draymond Green isn't on him, or wherever Steve Kerr elects to go. Iguodala is going to be a problem.
He's been a problem his entire career.
Yeah.
Especially on defense.
Yeah, he has. He shut down LeBron. Yes. He won Finals MVP when he held LeBron to 38-9-9. 38-9-9 and won Finals MVP for doing a good job. That's why I laugh when people said, "Oh, Ben Simmons didn't do a good job," or people made fun of me for praising Ben Simmons' defense on Kawhi Leonard. And it just keeps coming back to superstars in this league and why they always win.
They're going to get theirs.
So much. You can only do so much.
They're always going to get theirs. Every time.
Every single time. So with that being said, podcast number 2 is in the books. How do you feel the second time rolling through this thing?
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I think I know we said we were going to do baseball this time.
Well, the thing
Maybe next
is,
time.
we will definitely do baseball, obviously. I just think with the NBA Finals coming up, I think this is a good opportunity to grab something not baseball related because, let's be real, in the next upcoming months here, we're going to have a lot of baseball talk. So let's grab something juicy while we can and kind of roll with it. So
all right.
our last question here, I guess you kind of already answered. Your answer is Golden State in 6 at home?
Yep.
I think I don't want to copy you, but I think that when you use logic, I think that's a really good bet. I think that's a really good guess. You use logic behind it. Golden State at home can close out a game if possible and can win this thing in 6. That means the Raptors put together a nice battle, fought real hard, and was involved in this series. But at the end of the day, Golden State is a juggernaut. It's a juggernaut. Yeah. So we're going to have to wait and see. But there's no doubt it should be a doozy. And what if we get a game where Kawhi Leonard drops 65 points and grabs 17 boards and four steals and you have one of those monster games? That's the moment I live for the NBA Finals. Those are the moments that you sit there and you have your hands over your head and you say to yourself, how? And this is the biggest stage. There's something about the NBA Finals to me that I live for it. It's
where the great players step up.
And I love the Stanley Cup, obviously being a hockey guy, and I love the Super Bowl, and we talked about this when we mentioned before how the Eagles are my number 1, but the Sixers are my favorite, and how that doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. It's the same with the NBA Finals. Like, I love the Super Bowl. It's the one-day event. It's the best event. But the NBA Finals is still my favorite event, if that even makes sense. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I personally, for me, I love the World Series.
Yeah, me too. I do too. I love them all, man. I love them all.
Yeah, they're always exciting, but the NBA Finals are the one major sports championship where the great players step up. The truly great players step up when they're under the spotlight in the NBA Finals.
You're very, very right. All right, with that being said, we are going to end this podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will have another one uploaded soon. Thank you guys so much for all the support.
Thanks, guys.
Until next time.